The transport ship Vanguard's Promise shuddered violently as another plasma bolt tore through its starboard hull. Cadet Marcus Chen gripped the overhead rail, his knuckles white against the cold metal, watching the chaos unfold in the training deck below. What was supposed to be a routine orbital maneuver had turned into a nightmare when Krell raiders ambushed their convoy near the Theta 7 station. "All cadets to escape pods." Commander Vexilara's voice crackled through the intercom, her usual composed tone replaced by urgency. The Zentari officer had been their instructor for 6 months, preparing them for deep space operations. Now, her three-fingered hands worked frantically at the navigation console, visible through the observation window. Marcus didn't hesitate. He descended the ladder into the training deck where 43 cadets scrambled toward the pod bay. Then he saw her. Cadet Sarah Okonkwo, pinned beneath a collapsed support beam, her leg twisted at an unnatural angle. Around her, other cadets rushed past, too panicked or too focused on their own survival to notice. "Help!" Sarah's voice barely rose above the alarm klaxons. Marcus pushed against the flow of bodies, dropping to his knees beside her. The beam was standard titanium composite, designed to withstand explosive decompression. It had to weigh at least 200 kilograms. "I'm getting you out," Marcus said, wedging his hands beneath the beam. "You can't lift that alone," Sarah gasped, her dark eyes wide with pain and fear. "Save yourself." Marcus ignored her. He'd grown up on Earth's high-gravity colony on Titan, where the atmospheric pressure had strengthened his bones and muscles beyond standard human norms. His instructors called him Titan-born, a reminder that humanity's adaptability was its greatest weapon. He lifted. His muscles screamed in protest, tendons threatening to snap, but the beam shifted. Inch by agonizing inch, he raised it high enough for Sarah to drag herself free. The moment she cleared, Marcus let the beam crash down, his arms trembling. "Can you walk?" he asked. Sarah tried to stand and immediately collapsed. "No, go, please." Another explosion rocked the ship. Through the viewport, Marcus saw the Promise's sister ship, Dauntless, split in two, bodies and debris spiraling into the void. They had minutes at best. Marcus didn't argue. He hooked his arms under Sarah's shoulders and began dragging her toward the pod bay. Each step felt like moving through concrete. The deck tilted as the ship's artificial gravity fluctuated, and Marcus had to brace himself against bulkheads to keep them both from sliding. "Pod Bay 3 is compromised," Vexilara's voice announced. "Reroute to Bay 7. Bay 7 was on the opposite end of the ship. Marcus adjusted course, his breathing ragged. Behind him he heard crying, a sound that cut through the mechanical chaos like a blade. He turned. Cadet Tommy Reeves, barely 18, sat against a wall, clutching his arm. Blood seeped through his fingers where shrapnel had torn through his uniform. His face was pale, shock setting in. I can't move," Tommy whispered. Marcus looked at Sarah, then at Tommy, then at the distance to Bay 7. The mathematics were simple and cruel. He couldn't carry both. The logical choice was to leave one behind. Humanity had a saying the other species never understood. No one left behind. "Hold on to me," Marcus told Tommy. When the younger cadet hesitated, Marcus grabbed his good arm and pulled him up, draping it over his shoulders. Sarah he lifted in a fireman's carry, her weight pressing down on his back while Tommy leaned against his side. Every muscle in Marcus's body threatened mutiny. His vision blurred at the edges, and his heart hammered against his ribs like it wanted to escape. The corridor stretched endlessly before him, punctuated by sparking cables and buckled floor plates. Each step required a conscious command to his legs. Move, move, move. "Structural integrity at 15%, the ship's AI announced with clinical detachment. "Hull breach imminent." Marcus saw other cadets ahead. Priya Mehta and David Kowalski, struggling to help Chen Wei, who'd been partially blinded by a control panel explosion. They moved too slowly, terror making them clumsy. "Keep going," Marcus shouted at them. "Base 7, don't stop." Priya looked back, saw Marcus with his double burden, and something changed in her expression. She nodded, tightening her grip on Chen Wei, and doubled her pace. David followed suit. The deck suddenly lurched sideways. Marcus crashed into a wall, barely managing to keep Sarah and Tommy from hitting the ground. Pain exploded in his shoulder, but he pushed off and kept moving. His legs felt like they belonged to someone else, heavy, unresponsive things that somehow still carried him forward. Bay 7's doors appeared ahead, already cycling open. Commander Vexillara stood in the entrance, her purple carapace gleaming under emergency lighting, waving cadets through. 30 seconds to pod launch, she called out. Marcus reached the entrance and practically threw Sarah and Tommy into the bay. Vexillara caught them both with surprising strength, her compound eyes widening in what Marcus had learned to recognize as Zentari surprise. "Get in, Cadet Chen," she ordered. Marcus glanced back down the corridor. Empty. Everyone accounted for. He stumbled into the pod, collapsing onto a seat as the doors sealed. Through the viewport, he watched the Vanguard's Promise die, its hull fracturing in a cascade of silent explosions that painted the darkness with brief constellations of fire. The pod's engines fired, pushing them away from the wreckage toward the rescue fleet that had just arrived. Marcus closed his eyes, his body finally giving in to exhaustion. He woke in a medical bay aboard the carrier Indomitable. Soft lighting replaced the harsh emergency reds of the Promise. For a moment, Marcus thought he'd dreamed the entire ordeal. Then he tried to move, and his body reminded him otherwise. Every muscle screamed in protest. "Easy, Cadet Chen." A human medic appeared beside his bed. "You tore pretty much everything that could be torn. You'll heal, but it'll take time." "The others," Marcus croaked. "All 43 cadets survived. Commander Vexillara, too. You were the last one in the pod." The medic smiled. "You're a damn hero, kid." Marcus shook his head. "I just did what anyone would—" "That's where you're wrong." The medic pulled up a holographic display. Commander Vexillara filed a formal commendation. She's been training cadets for 20 cycles. That's nearly 30 Earth years. She says in all that time, across 5 different species, she's never seen anyone do what you did. Dragging 2 injured people through a dying ship? Most species would have made the logical choice. Humans. He paused, respect clear in his voice. Humans don't do logic when it comes to their own. 3 days later, still recovering, Marcus received a message to report to the Admiral's office, via wheelchair if necessary. When he arrived, he found not just Admiral Torres, but also Commander Vexillara and a delegation of Zentari officials, their carapaces decorated with honor marks. "Cadet Marcus Chen," Admiral Torres began, her voice formal. "Your actions during the Vanguard's Promise incident have been reviewed by both Earth Command and the Galactic Coalition Council. While we cannot replace the ship we lost, we can ensure that your courage is remembered." One of the Zentari officials stepped forward, manipulating a holographic interface. An image appeared, a massive archive database, its entries spanning millennia. "The Zentari maintain the Galactic Honor Archives," the official explained in translated speech. "Every act of extraordinary valor across known space is recorded here. For a human to be included is unprecedented. Your species has only been part of the coalition for 72 cycles." The holographic display zoomed through countless entries, names, and deeds from dozens of alien species until it stopped on a new entry. The text still glowing with the fresh blue of recent addition. Marcus Chen, human, rescued multiple injured personnel under extreme duress, refusing evacuation until all others were secured. demonstrated species' typical disregard for personal survival in favor of collective welfare. Action resulted in 0 casualties, recommended for Galactic Medal of Valor. Marcus stared at his name, etched among heroes from across the galaxy. He thought about Sarah and Tommy, about Priya and David and Chen Wei, about every cadet who made it out because they'd helped each other. "With respect, Admiral," Marcus said quietly, "I wasn't alone. We all got each other out." Admiral Torres smiled. "That's exactly why your name is there, Cadet. You reminded 42 other people what humanity stands for." She glanced at Commander Vexillara. "And apparently impressed at least one Zentari enough to make her reconsider everything she thought she knew about humans." Vexilara's mandibles clicked in her species equivalent of a smile. "I trained you to survive, Cadet Chen. You taught me that for humans, survival means something different. You do not leave your pack behind, even when logic demands it." "Especially when logic demands it," Marcus corrected softly. Later, alone in his quarters, Marcus looked at the copied archive entry on his personal display. His name glowed among thousands of others, warriors, explorers, and heroes from civilizations that had explored the stars while humans still thought Earth was flat. He thought about what Commander Vexillara had said. Maybe she was right. Maybe humanity's refusal to accept acceptable losses, their stubborn insistence on bringing everyone home, was what made them different. Other species calculated odds and made rational decisions. Humans calculated odds and then ignored them if it meant saving one more life. His communicator chimed. A message from Sarah. "Thank you for being stubborn. Doctors say I'll walk again in a month. Drinks are on me when we both get out of medical." Marcus smiled. He hadn't saved anyone for glory or recognition. He'd done it because leaving them wasn't an option his brain could process. It simply wasn't something humans did. And maybe, in a galaxy full of logical species making rational choices, that stubborn, illogical, very human refusal to leave anyone behind was humanity's greatest strength. His name would remain in those archives long after he was gone. A reminder to every species that sometimes the most heroic thing you can do is the thing that makes absolutely no sense, except to a human.